So hi everyone, I am V. Srinivas Rao, also known as VSR. I am the Chairman and Managing Director for BT and VT, a lean digital solutions provider. And I'm also Chairman for the Open Digital Innovation Group under Institution of Engineering and Technology. Today, we are going to have very interesting discussion on how to apply artificial intelligence and analytics together to complex health settings. I think the healthcare today is really very important and relevant. So how this AI and analytics are playing a very key role. So I have esteemed panel here who are from the healthcare industry, and I'm eager to hear from them. I'm sure you get a lot of value, the audience who attend this. Neeraj Lal is the Chief Operating Officer at Apollo Hospitals. And we have Dhruv Rastogi, VP and Head of Data Science, IKS Health. And Ashish Pandey, CIO and CDTO, GSK Consumer Healthcare India. Dr. Tau Pritesh Sethi, Founding Head, Center of Excellence in Healthcare, IIT Delhi. I invite all the esteemed panelists to this interesting discussion.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm sure today, so we have been facing pandemic, and in the past also, healthcare is very important. If you look at the healthcare ecosystem, it is pretty complex. So we have the providers, you have producers, and you have payers. So there's a lot of integration happening, and this ecosystem is very huge. So in that, there are so many data points getting generated, because the healthcare industry also have been implementing so many technology solutions, and they have disparate data sources. The data can be coming from the transactional systems like patient care or supply chain or procurement or hospital operations, or it may be coming from the pharma companies, or it may be coming from the insurance companies and all. But as I mentioned earlier, data rich and insight poor, that is a drip is of no use. So when the data is coming off a variety of data and from different sources, how we best leverage that data, how we can derive the intelligence, insight. That's where the artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms plays a very vital role. So today's our discussion is especially on how artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, all the related algorithms, and finally the descriptive analytics or diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, how they play a role in the healthcare settings. So let me start my discussion. So we have been talking about the healthcare ecosystem, which is very complex. That's what we are saying. So I would like to probably request the panelists to share what are all the data sources and different types of data getting generated in this complex ecosystem. So I request Neeraj, you want to start, then I go to the other panelists also.
Yeah, since we are producing many data across various verticals, I represent hospitals. I run Apollo Hospitals. So healthcare and this organization churns mountains of data every minute of every day. Lot of strain on their systems to assemble the data across disparate formats, and it's used effectively for deep learning algorithm. There's a saying, nearly 41% of healthcare and life sciences organization, they have created a data-driven organization, what they say, more than twice that of a data-rich financial service sector. So that is all about data. In hospital, if you see, data is generated through various sources, like HIMS, what we say into the healthcare, Hospital Information Management System, your IPD, that is indoor patient, which is admitted in various ICUs, wards, that come from a biomedical equipment if you use on the patient, your manual checks, your prescriptions, your procedures, your billing, the supply chain, various implants, stands which we use on the patients, employee data from HR, the training, the vaccination. Now you must be seeing we are maintaining a vaccination data, the doctors and staff who work here, their privileges, their degrees, the business data and MIS, what kind of data is generated from cardiology department versus nephrology department versus transplantation, biomedical equipment. You enter the hospital, right from CT scanner to MRI to pads, so and so. So for monitoring this data, people created their own dashboard because data does not interact and talk to each other. And several software which the hospital use, in most of the hospital, they're not very user friendly. So we have the data, but we can't use it because of data integration challenges what we have.
Okay. Thank you so much, Neeraj. I think it's very scary in a way. The data is coming from so many sources, right? I mean, it's so. Dhruv, do you have any thoughts on what is this complexity, the complexity of healthcare setting or ecosystem? So, what are the data sources in your view, from your experience? Can you please share?
Sure, sure. So, I mean, we talk about healthcare and, all the so-called V's of big data are right in front of us, right? We talk about volume, we talk about variety, we talk about the velocity, we talk about veracity, right? Each and every element of big data is there in the healthcare ecosystem, right? So if we look across, whether it's in informatics or analytics or AI or bioinformatics, right? Across each and every stage of operating a healthcare life cycle, we witness data across the entire myriad, right? To be a little more detailed, I mean, if we talk about volume, right? Healthcare generates a large volume of data, right? I mean, if we just look at genomic data, for example, it's gigabytes of data, right? Even for a small patient, if we were to analyze. Similarly, if you were to look at medical imaging, right? A simple MRI scan can be of the order of huge, amounts of data, sometimes an order of gigabytes, right? And if we aggregate this over hospitals or let's say cities or countries or large geographies, this can be huge. Right? If we talk about the variety of data, right? The variety is huge. We talk about clinical information, talk about patients' demographics, diagnosis, procedures, medications, lab results, clinical notes, right? The variety is huge, right? And these days, we have a lot of data coming in from sensors or a lot of wearable devices as well, right? And it's another challenge how to make that data from an interoperability perspective. Talk about velocity of data. I know Neeraj will be able to appreciate that, right? I mean, the amount of real-time data that we receive, whether it's pressure, temperature, heart rate, and so many complex devices which are being used in hospitals, right? The velocity at which it comes can be really exaggerated, can be really huge.
Sure.
And we talk about velocity, finally, right? Unfortunately, just like in many domains, right, healthcare data comes with a lot of noise, a lot of missing data, a lot of errors, and sometimes a lot of false alarms as well. And that becomes a big challenge for people who work in healthcare analytics or healthcare data science.
Sure, I think that's great. I mean, you, I think, narrated it very well. The velocity, variety, then volume and veracity, and also the so many sources, what the data is coming in. I think it is humongous. I am sure it is very complex. So we'll get into, I mean, how we can best leverage this and all probably in the next discussion. So Ashish, I think from GSK, I'm sure a lot of innovations and discuss, right? So in the context of that, what do you think the data sources and type of data getting emerged in the healthcare ecosystem?
Actually, we are looking at data from very different angles. And if I speak about overall industry, there is a huge thing around privacy and collaboration, right? So maybe an ex-hospital is generating data. They are not sharing it with Y, right? And similarly, Y is not sharing with Z. So those kind of scenarios, if I speak about wearables, those are generating humongous amount of data, right? And the idea, the overall crux around this entire AI, this entire integration, this entire understanding of data is how best we can help our consumers, right? That is the entire intent. So if I club it with privacy, if I club it with the real-time data, the 4 points which Dhruv very excellently mentioned, right? The volume, veracity, velocity, and the variety, right? I'm going to use it going forward, by the way, Dhruv. So very cleverly put. I think these are the regular challenges which all organizations, everyone across industry is facing. I also see a need of harmonizing this data. For example, if I speak about Europe, if I speak about US, if data is being taken, it is really transportable from one place to another. People are able to see it. People are able to see it seamlessly.
Right.
Insurance provider are able to see it, right?
Right.
So those kinds of things have to happen in India also in coming days. And I know that there is a privacy bill, there are regulations all around it. That has to come through. If it starts happening, then actually we will be able to help individuals also. Then we will be able to help them with the right kind of suggestions. Because as I was saying that how convenient and easy it will be for me if my father is wearing a watch, right, which is taking his diagnosis and everything. And if something is getting haywire, I'm not even present there. Someone is helping him right away, right? So those kind of things, those kinds of real time velocity actually coming into picture. That okay, it is helping people. So it is coming years are going to be very interesting in this area.
Sure. Thanks, Ashish. Thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. Tau Pritesh Shetty, I think you have been driving the Center of Excellence. I am sure you might be doing some innovations on the data also. Can you please share your thoughts on the healthcare ecosystem, its complexity, what all the different data sources are there?
Thank you for that question. The healthcare system is complex because of so much interdisciplinarity. So it includes engineering, it includes health specialists, clinicians, administrative departments, etc. And of course, at the center of it is the citizen or the person. So if you think about the complexity of the healthcare system, it actually starts from the center where people have their data that are being generated through various processes, through their engagement with hospitals, through their life course journeys, and also now going forward through longitudinal health data that are being, for example, collected or will be generated as a part of the National Digital Health Mission. So I think the complexity of the healthcare ecosystem encompasses all of these different sources and types of data, which include clinical data, which include health and wellness data. These include data that we know gets generated from buying of medicines, pharmaceuticals, and also data that are more research driven, but get generated from, for example, investigations, genomics, precision health initiatives. So you can think about this very complex ecosystem where we are trying to get a sense of our health states through various lenses. And each of these lenses in genomics, drugs that we take, clinical encounters that we have, and the insurance ecosystem are the primary sources of data that are currently being generated in healthcare. And these are of various different types of data, right? So because these data types may include text data, these may include images, structured data in the form of tables, these may include opinions, and even now social media is being used to glean insights about health of people, at least on a population level.
All right. So I think till now we have been talking about maybe it is a raw material or there is a gold mine or you call it as oil reservoir. I think we need to have some instruments. We need to have something to best get this gold out of the mine or oil out of the this reservoirs, whatever it is. So I request Neeraj, what do you think the AI, ML, and analytics, how it is helping? Especially I'm talking about because you have been now working in Apollo, which is the, I think, innovator in so many patient care related aspects. So how probably the healthcare industry can best leverage the data to provide a better patient experience and the preventive healthcare, then improving the diagnosis, right? So that ultimately the patient has to get the value from the data. There is no point having so many data points coming in, but unless the patient get that value, no use, right? So can you please share your experiences, maybe real life examples on how AI ML are being used on the data so that the patients are getting better value?
Right. See, in the recent time, 2016, demonetization, see, boosted the adoption of digitization. And I think pandemic act as a catalyst for healthcare, where we started using this technology in a big way, AI, machine learning, and all. I was just seeing this thing. If you see, our teleconsultation have increased from less than 5% to around 40%. Our remote patient monitoring, especially during people are working from home, especially for COVID patient, as there was a shortage of beds. So we can able to manage, you believe it, around 75,000 patients in the last pandemic, that is second wave of pandemic. Apollo Group have managed through home healthcare, remote patient monitoring. Robots for monitoring temperature and doing registration. If you see some of the hospitals, some robots were used for monitoring the temperature and doing registration. EMR, if you see our compliance in the OPD prescription, doctor used to give e-prescription. It is around 77%. Now, doctor is not mentioning the records on the clinical paper. There is a transcription which is there, and it is automatically OP and IP prescription is generated. Many health application was developed. There was a boost to wearable health devices. You must be seeing e-payments. Earlier, we were doing less than 15% e-payments. Now, almost everywhere, right from the pharmacy to health checkup to wards, QR code is there. You can pay wherever you want. So AI in healthcare have changed the way we work. And if you see, I'll give you example of Apollo Pro Health Checkup. See, Apollo is a leaders in health checkup. If you see, now most of the healthcare organization, they use Apollo Master Health Checkup this thing. Now we have involved AI into the Pro Health Checkup. Now, we used to do health checkup. Around 40% of the health checkup is done for the corporates. Big corporate like Torrent is there, Google is there, Microsoft is there. The team used to come to the hospital and we get their health checkup done. And then with the help of AI, we generate various medical bulletin for their HRs. And then we get to know these many people are on the borderline of sugar. These many people on the borderline of hypertension. These many people require a urologist consultation, so that HR and a company want to interview what can be done, depending upon the food course, depending upon the lifestyle and all. Now you must be seeing most of the fittest people is getting heart attack. So we are using this Pro Health Checkup and using this AI technology to see the, the predictive kind of a thing. So if you see the machine learning, like using our clinical data and molecular research, predictive modeling can help in understanding the potential candidate, which we are doing it. It also help in eliminate the cost and the time required for the trial and monitor, processes. Precision medicine, say for example, medical history. If our patient come from one hospital to another hospital, we are not supposed to take history again and again. So what we see last three things, we have created an app known as Apollo 24/7. So whenever he's going in hospital number 1 or 2, his reports, our doctor can see from wherever. And accordingly, a medical prognosis can be made and treatment can be started. Now, chat box, we are using increasingly in primary care and triage. Virtual nursing assistants are there. Whenever a patient is getting discharged, they're going home, the virtual nursing assistant is there. Home healthcare entirely, most of the companies are making use of that. Then also we also use AI in radiology and pathology. See, every X-ray which pass through a radiologist may not be very abnormal. So we are using AI in the scanning of X-ray images. So all those things speed up the diagnosis, process the scan very fast, and come to the conclusion very fast. So these are the few things which
Sure.
Apollo and other healthcare providers are doing into the healthcare. Earlier, I've seen prior to the COVID, say, for example, a patient is very serious in the critical care ICU. You just cannot have all the multi-specialty consultant available right close to the patient bed, maybe a cardiologist, a nephrologist, or oncologist. So we use machine learning and AI. So a doctor who is posted into the ICU, he is coordinating with all the multi-specialty consultant via this MI, and they see the patient diagnosis, they see the patient essential right in their cell phones and the software which is installed there, and they can give the advice to this doctor who's posted into the ICU. I feel COVID has made the things very easy for the hospital managers to pass this technology to the healthcare ecosystem. And as a result, it helped us to control the hospital and aid in the patient diagnosis in a very smart way.
Sure. Thank you. I think that's wonderful. In fact, integrating healthcare with HR is a real great idea. I'm sure most of the big organizations started doing that. As you rightly said, the preventive healthcare, especially the people working in the knowledge-intensive industry, highly stressed and sedentary life is there. So proactively, probably we need to tell when they are going to get probably heart pain or diabetics and so on and so forth. That's wonderful. And second, you also talk about how the chatbots are playing a very vital role in assisting the patients, and also the virtual assistants, how they're playing. Then diagnosis, that's very important. I think today a lot of images are there, and our test data, pathology test data is there. Then the diagnosis is the most important thing you talk about is the guy who is treating the patient in ICU or anywhere. So if you want to get the multi-doctors inputs and then suggestions, that can be easily handled through now technology. I think that's wonderful, Neeraj. Thank you so much. I'm sure patients will get a better experience and value with this AI and ML technologies by leveraging technologies, data. So Ashish, so in terms of the drug discovery, I think we always know that the clinical trials and the clinical development process takes 8 years, $1 billion investment, and it's you don't know still after release whether it will be successful or not. But surprisingly, the vaccine for COVID got released in a year or probably a year plus. So do you see the role of data, whether it is clinical trials or whatever the molecules, whatever the analysis you do in the drug discovery and all, data plus AI plus ML plus analytics contributed or contributing to really have the early discovery of drugs? So could you please share your thoughts on that?
So this is the first time in centuries, right? Maybe we have started vaccination from last 30, 40 years, some odd years, right? After penicillin and all those things, right? We started vaccination. This is the first time that so fast vaccines have actually got launched in the market, right? And it is doing wonders. It is doing wonders if I speak about all the vaccines and all the population. And we can directly correlate it with the outcomes also. Those kind of data is also available. What I've studied, what I have seen is that data and entire simulation process has a huge role to be played into this. What used to happen earlier was that the capability to calculate those kind of high data points, that was not there, that you can get outcomes really fast. I still remember when I was in IIT, I used to give some input to supercomputer for calculation, and it used to take me somewhat 2 days to see output. So that used to happen. It was from 10,000 there, and now those things I believe can happen over just high-end gaming laptop, maybe, right? So those kind of things have started coming. So first of all, the computing power that has enhanced a lot. Second is around the algorithm, the modeling. That has improved really, really well. Now you can predict how your molecules are going to interact with each other based on huge voluminous data of modeling and simulation. Third thing is around collaboration. Earlier, there was less collaboration in the scientific communities as well because of the boundaries, because of the real boundaries. Now those boundaries have become extinct with the usage of high-end computing products and things, and they collaborate a lot. So for example, I'm doing a research, maybe some X company like IBM, Google will be happy to provide me a machine where I can run my simulations and things, right? And there are capabilities of pooling those resources as well. I can also collaborate with scientists of Europe. I can collaborate with scientists of USA. I can collaborate world across, and I can actually use their data. I can use their population also. So even before reaching to clinical trial, I'm very much sure that how my drug is going to behave. I'm very much confident about it, even if I should be launching into clinical trial. So those kind of things, those kind of facilities to all the organizations, the medical fraternity, that enhanced like anything. And not just about COVID, not just about the COVID drug. If I see drugs around cancer, if I see drugs around autoimmune disorders, which have been pretty much insolvable over the years, we are seeing solutions. And I'm hoping that these all drugs which are coming to market, they become very much scalable and people can afford, and things get resolved for our, again, as I keep saying, that it should be beneficial for our consumers.
Humanity. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ashish. I think wonderful. You summarized the computing power and the ability to analyze the data, simulate the future, maybe at the level of molecules, how we can simulate, which was not possible in the past because you don't have probably elastic storage tanks of the data and the elastic computing power. Today you have that, and you can probably simulate and see the different scenarios, adverse events, what will happen, everything probably with the AML, you can do it. And most importantly, we are like in India, we say Vasudhaika Kutumbam. So you can connect with anyone in the world and collaborate and do the things. Thank you so much. And
one thing more, VSR, which I see also here is that in coming years, we are going to see that a bit of AI ML will have to be known by every person, be it in any profession. Maybe a little bit, maybe usage of tools only, not getting around the coding aspects, but everyone will have to know that. That is going to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe user, maybe innovator, maybe whatever, different way they have to do that, yeah. Okay, now again, let us have all. So I would like to request your views on another interesting thing. So how artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and analytics have been revolutionizing the healthcare data. Okay, we talk about the what you call the drug discovery. We talk about patient experience and all. So let us talk about something on, is it helping to reduce the cost? I mean, in terms of patient service, or it could be even drug discovery. I mean, $1 billion you are investing, $800 million, 8 years. So AI/ML, is it something reducing the cost, or is it helping us to come up with some innovations in the drug discovery and all? And of course, we already talked about the consumer engagement and all. So any examples you want to start with? Anyone, maybe Dhruv or Neeraj or Ashish? Yeah, maybe this time let me start with Dhruv. So Dhruv, anything you feel, cost reduction or consumer engagement or innovations, how the AI/ML is helping the organization?
Absolutely. No, so AI/ML, in fact, the entire cognitive AI stack, right, is tremendously helping almost everyone in the entire healthcare ecosystem, right? So if you talk about all the cognitive technologies, for example, language processing or audio processing or computer vision, right? All of these technologies are getting applied as we speak today, right? So these are not futuristic things, but these are being utilized all over the world, right? Some geographies may be ahead, some geographies may be behind, but I'm sure everyone is using these technologies to some extent or the other, right? So all the tech giants are also, investing heavily in all these technologies, and especially, recently their focus on healthcare as a vertical, as a specialization, has increased for their application, right? So while we talk about patient engagement and better quality of care. I think one area where this is also getting utilized is in reducing the burnout of the healthcare providers, right? For instance, if we talk about physicians, we talk about healthcare staff. A lot of these products and solutions are being utilized in those directions as well. For example, if we talk about scribing, right? That happens to be a very a task which takes a lot of time for a lot of physicians, right? And today, we've got various solutions to various levels of maturity, right? Which utilize technologies across speech to text, NLP, auditing, etc., right? And all tailored specifically to healthcare, right? The area where this helps is in areas like revenue cycle management for healthcare providers, right?
Correct.
So if we talk of the entire landscape, from eligibility, verification, prior authorization, billing, charges, AR management, right? And finally, all of that enabling better denial management, right? So a lot of AI systems, predictive modeling systems, prescriptive systems are being developed and used to discover insights from past data and help in reducing the denials, right? Which help the top line for providers, and at the same time also helps in reducing the operational burden, right? Which the entire system goes through. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's great. Neeraj, I think, so in terms of the cost reduction, I think I request you to spend some time on that, because at the end of the day, the healthcare cost is going up. Unfortunately, in India, 80%, 70% to 80% money has to be spent by the consumers. Unlike in US, it is 13%. So it is very important for us to, as a technologist, to help the providers to offer very affordable healthcare. So how you think AI/ML technologies can help in providing that affordable healthcare?
Okay, I'll share some real lifetime examples which we are experimenting in some of the hospitals, like AI cameras for the capture of various. See, there's so many emotions, happy and sad. So because of this COVID, what we did, punching and punch out is very important. So we have graduated to AI-based cameras where a doctor or a patient or a staff used to see at the cameras and the punching is done. It also captures the moods of the patients or the staff or the doctors while the patient is waiting for the doctor in the OPD. You can capture whether happy, sad, or not very happy. So our customer care manager used to go to the patient and ask, I understand you're not very happy. How can we help them? So, the entire patient experience changes. And some HR manager called to a doctor or a staff, hey, doctor, morning, you are 75% happy. Now I'm saying, why you're going out of the hospital, you are just 37% happy. So all those things engage with the doctors and the staff and with the patient. So I think we care for them, number one. Second, quality management. Now, most of the hospital have quality management system in place. So they have so many quality parameters. So AI will also help in possible. When I'm staying in the hospital, you must be seeing bed sores, hospital acquired infection, whether the doctors or a paramedic, they're washing their hands or not. So AI will also help into that, which also reduce the cost. If in the broad spectrum, antibiotics and all those things, number two. Number three, as I was talking about, remote patient monitoring for the quarantine patient. No need to come to the hospital when there is no beds. You can be treated at home. Like 5-6 companies, I'm sitting here in this third wave of pandemic, 6 companies have signed a contract with us here, AI, ONGC, for the home healthcare kits. So they're not coming here. They're at home only. Our doctors and the nurse give them a call every day on a virtual consultation and seeing the patient, what is the temperature, what is the saturation for oxygen, and so on. Number 3, AI can be useful in all the medical ICUs and surgical ICU, drug to drug reaction, probable complications, all these things flag off to the doctors and it can be taken care of. They can also tell you about RPOPs, average revenue per patient, your consumable cost. Now, most of the surgeries is shifting from the open-based surgery to a package-based surgery. What is the total bill of the patient? What is the average length of stay? Here in Apollo, what we do, we write whenever patient is getting admitted, estimated time of discharge. So patient know, okay, I'm here on day 1, 3rd day or 4th day, depending upon my medical treatment, I'll get discharged in 3 days. And patient gets so satisfaction. It is so positive. And this AI tool will help them. Average length of stay at the time of the end. AI for the physiotherapy treatment at home. You come to the physiotherapy session, every time you're not supposed to come. AI can also help you at the physiotherapy treatment home. So all these are the real lifetime example which we use on the patient and inside the hospital for the treatment part of it, cost reduction part of it, and patient experience part of it.
Super. I think it's a classic example of how AI/ML used for our revenue monitoring or patient care, or even you are talking about physiotherapists, they can use it, and most importantly, the emotions. Maybe sometimes the doctors may get frustrated. Why are you calling me? Yes, I am down. Why are you calling me? So, yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
And it make a smile on the patient or the staff or a doctor. You know, just smile. Oh, my happiness index has gone down. What happened?
Right. So maybe, I mean, IISc done research on that, or probably they might be using the sensors to read the blood flow in the face. They say that based on the blood flow and color, probably, they say what is the mood of this guy. Okay. And they may suggest what you have to do at that moment of the time as a recommendation. You go and see a movie, or you go and spend with a friend or family.
Or go and play out. Just go out
and play. Yeah, that's great. That's important today because more and more everybody is becoming very sensitive nowadays. That's a problem.
You know, your watch will tell you it's a time for you to breathe. It's a time for you to take a glass of water. Whenever I wash my hands, my watch will say, oh, you are 3 seconds short. You have to wash your hand for 20 seconds. So all those things are very important. We have to make use of it.
Right. Great. Ashish, any thoughts? So what is that AI/ML will help us to reduce at least 30% of the drug discovery and release to the market?
First of all, do I look 80% happy or not?
But you look happy, but we have to see the sensors has to tell us. Nowadays, we are not believing what we are seeing.
Just about to ask Neeraj, do I look 80% happy at least?
You have to pass through our cameras.
No, fantastic question. Fantastic question. And see, there are 2 areas. Whenever we are speaking about 2 areas, about cost, then there are 2 areas. Something which we are developing on our own or something which we are bringing from industry, right? Those are the 2 angles which actually cater to it. Now, first of all, we have to be strongly convinced that this is going to take good money. AI/ML is not cheap. As of now, as of today, it is not. And in coming years also, the kind of advancement which we are looking for, which every organization is looking for, it is going to cost. It is not going to be like super cheap. Second is around that if I'm developing it on my own, let's say I'm working something on my own, I have to create it, I have to work entirely on it. There has to be a clear discussion and agreement with all the stakeholders that this is something which is actually going to cost, and you are not even going to see the right kind of results in coming 2 to 3 years. It consumes data. It consumes a lot of data. There is a lot of perfection which is needed to be built in. Any AI/ML models, 70% accuracy is considered as very high accuracy in the first time. They are like that you have actually achieved it. That kind of results are there, right? So that kind of buy-in, and why I'm saying buy-in, because people move, people change, things move. So when you are actually getting into those kinds of programs where you are working on these kind of things, you have to understand that this is a journey of 2 to 3 years. And then only you will be actually able to achieve on the investment which you have made. So first of all, that whenever you are doing it internally, now I'm coming to the external part. In external part, initially I see that the costs are going to be high. There is a huge competition, but if I speak about the good products, if I speak about the products which are actually to give the right kind of results with the right kind of accuracy, they are pricey. So that cost is going to be there. That cost we will have to incur. We don't have any option, right? We will be incurring those costs, but over the period, I think that costs will be going down. But any organization has to look into this way. Either you are there or you won't be there at all in future. So if you don't invest in these areas, if you look at the cost angle only, not at the growth perspective, you are not investing in the right way. You have to be in this area. Otherwise, after 3 or 4 years, there is going to be an outlier event where you will be out of the picture.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how I see that you have to invest.
I think it's important. It's not just simply we say that the AI ML will reduce the cost of production or operations and all. The initial investment also needs to be factored. I think that is very, very important. There is a lot of, I think, infrastructure might be required, computing power might be required, technologies might be required, experts might be required. So I think that has to be factored. Okay, after that, once
I will give an example. In India, it is still considerably cost effective if you are going for a manual intervention where some kind of quality aspect is needed. And you will be spending something around the range of 50,000 USD to have it automated and AI and everything. So if still the cost and those benefit angle of manual and the automation around AI is still not matching.
Actually, unfortunately, only 5% AI projects are successful in the world. They are not giving the intended results. I think that is also very important. So I think a lot of maturity required, while there is a lot of hype, and we also need to have a reality check on that. Thank you so much, Ashish. So, all right, Dr. Tau Pritesh Sethi, could you please also share on this how AI ML can reduce cost and also introduce some new product and service innovation, so on and so forth?
Sure, I think there is a lot of development in AI for healthcare in the past decade, but in the last 2 years, it has been spurred by COVID. We have seen numerous examples where AI has helped improve operations, right? For example, how does it help us save costs? Wherever there is repetitive tasks that are needed to be done by experts, that is a drain on time. And AI has been helping in reducing this drain of time and reducing costs through screening, triaging, and also essentially providing the first layer where some of the initial screening and triaging can happen. So that way, basically, it helps in reducing the costs which are associated with the repetitive tasks. And so it frees up the time for the experts to do other tasks. Now, this can be seen in various real-life examples. For example, in case of COVID, there have been numerous examples in radiology where AI has been proposed to screen radiology reports faster. But even before that, I think there is also scope for AI in smoothing the operations, right, of a hospital or a setting where data and AI can help us, for example, guide how many bloods of units to store in a given hospital. How can we allocate resources appropriately in a way that we don't get overwhelmed because of a surge. So these are some of these kinds of examples, but also at the side of engagement with people. Our own lab, for example, has been working on some of these approaches where we have end user engagement. And one of these activities was called Wash Karo project, which we started for providing more up-to-date information using AI/ML about COVID and what can we do to prevent it. And there we saw various forms of engagement, how can we improve engagement with people who need to get the right information. And you may know that most of our population may not be, for example, preferring to read English information. So AI/ML also helps in making this information and engagement more inclusive to different segments of population and also to different user groups. So those are the kind of examples I would like to give where AI/ML has been revolutionizing cost reduction, innovations in services, resource allocation products, and also consumer engagement. So in consumer engagement, the segmentation of the right customer or the right person to get to is a key aspect where AI/ML is playing a role.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. All right, Neeraj, I am again coming back to you. So now we talk about patient engagement and revenue. Then we talk about drug discovery. There are so many things out there. But day to day in a hospital, there are so many operational activities. Okay, it's appointment. And nowadays, a lot of improvement we have seen. Then appointment, then after that, registration, waiting time, seeing the doctor, going for lab tests, taking the reports, again going to the doctor. I mean, OPD perspective. Then I think if somebody has to join, that's a different thing. Then booking the room, then in the room, so many things needs to be said. These are all operations, and then the surgeries. So every day, a lot of, I think, operation theater, you have to manage the schedule and all. This is the biggest challenge for any hospital, right? So what do you see the usage of artificial intelligence and machine learning? Systematically, the operation theaters can be best utilized, or the beds can be best utilized, the medical equipment are best utilized, or all those things, how we can do it basically.
You're right. It is a very, we are talking about just medical and clinical. I'll give you some of the insight from our operations. Every hospital got many biomedical equipment ranging from syringe pumps, ranging from ventilators and monitors. But these equipments are meant for a particular department. Say, for example, medical ICU got 6 ventilators, surgical ICU got 10 ventilators, your neonatal ICU got some ventilators, and they are department specific, though they can be used in all the departments. So now what we have installed one app which is QR based, and whenever we have given a code to each of the medical equipment. So whenever this equipment is going down, breakdown, a biomedical engineer go there, scan that QR code, and you get to know what is the history of that equipment. Okay, whether it is in the CMC, AMC, which is the name of the vendor, what is a person who will come and do that history and everything. And then he also he'll see where my equipments are there, so that he can, in the meantime, he can transfer that equipment where it is not being used to a particular intensive care unit. You cannot have 100 ICU bed and 100 ventilators. You must have seen in this pandemic, people are struggling for ICU bed and ventilator, though they have a bed, but they don't have a ventilator. So this
only
technology,
40,000, I heard only 40,000 ventilators were there throughout India.
Yes, and you cannot have all the ICU bed don't have ventilators. See, every ICU patient does not require. But with the help of this, we can get to know how many equipment are functional, how many equipments are not in use, so that we can track those ventilator within the unit, across the unit, within the center, and we can transport those ventilator to the areas where it is used. Number one, we can have a breakdown data also, like how many hours or minutes our equipment is down, and how much time it is required to repair it back, and a maintenance data. Number one. Number two, you're talking about the operational management in the ward. So a patient, there is a system in wards which is known as nurse call management system. And that poor nurse may not be required for all the reasons. Say, for example, the AC of my room is not working. So a nurse is not required for this. Correct. My washroom is not very clear. Nurse is not required for this. I have got a food which is not very warm, which is not very good. A nurse is not required. If you see in most of the hospital, whenever you press the nurse call bell system, this girl who is engaged with the patient, she comes to your place and you will say to him, my food is not good. My bed sheet is not good. So what she will do, she'll come out, call that housekeeping fellow or F&B people, and the name is nurse call. See, okay. And in this time, nurses is in the shortage. So what we have done when I was working in Bangalore in one of the hospital, we have done a 4-point system, 4 call bell type of a system. Whenever a patient is getting admitted, we give a remote kind of a system to a patient, which have 4 buttons. First button, when you require a medical help or a nurse help with the TET. So whenever I press that button, a call will go to a ward nurse or a duty nurse, and a TAT is defined within 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And if she's not attending, the in charge of that floor has this message will go to the in charge. And if she's not responding, head of the nursing services will get the message. Number one. Secondly, if my food is not good, second button is F&B. Third button is housekeeping, and fourth button is maintenance. So I am apportioning these calls according to the requirement. And it has been seen over a period of time, 33% of the nursing work is planned, and you are not requiring
Wow.
cards for each and everything. And these girls are so happy. They get to know for each and
Yes.
every, and these department, this housekeeping, this maintenance, these people will get now pressure from the management. Look, guys, I am seeing the report. I have seen so many call generated from the fourth floor, and your TED time has crossed 10 minutes from the scheduled time. Your TED
Right.
time has gone 30 minutes. And then you got your data with you to call those department and fix those people or
Sure.
the system. So these are the areas where I think if you can use AI or machine learning and use this kind of application, I think it will help us. In fact, in one of the hospital in Hyderabad, when I was there in Medicover, we use I assisted Medicover. So whenever I go, this app has to be download maybe anything and everything I want,
Hmm.
your food requirement, your complaint, and a call center will call you. You raise that complaint at 12 o'clock. I'm sure it
Right.
is 3 o'clock, it is solved. If it is not solved, then a hospital manager or a general manager operation need to address these things. So I think if we can
Sure.
use these kind of technologies and application,
Yeah.
it will make the patient very happy.
Thank you, Niraj. It's a wonderful, I think, how the technology is used to even distribute the load and reduce the load, because the skills are very scarce. So you have to best utilize the paramedical staff, nurses,
Yes.
I think effectively. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And also how you are tracking all these medical equipment and devices so that you can best utilize where it is not used, you can easily find, and you can find where it is getting repaired, and you can probably plan for it. Thank you so much. Dhruv, I think very quickly, because we are in the tail end of the session. Okay, we have been talking about so many great things about this AI, ML, analytics and all. So there's a lot of, I think, interoperability challenges will be there. And also the second one is the cultural roadblocks might be there, or technological challenges might be there in collating the data, cleaning the data, analyzing the data, and getting the required insight. It's a whole big process, right? It's not like simply the results we spoke till now. But prior to that, there is a lot of process needs to be implemented. So what are the challenges you foresee in this whole life cycle of raw data to insight or foresight?
I'm glad you asked, and we have a dedicated topic for this particular discussion, because yes, getting access to the right clean data is, I think, every data scientist or AI engineer's dream, right? Because there are so many challenges which they face, right, in getting the data right, right? And even as they say in data science, right, but 2/3 of the time goes in getting the data right. And it's actually 1/3 which goes in modeling, etc. But some of the key problems, as you rightly said, one is fragmented data, right? And because data as we speak today comes in different formats, it comes in different sources, right? And the formats can be also huge. I mean, very, very varied, right? From structured data, paper, digital, pictures, videos, multimedia, and so on, right? The variety of data that we get can be huge. The other aspect again is about the ever-changing data itself, right? So just like I mean, if you talk about patients and physicians, like everyone, they also move on, right? Payer organizations or insurance companies, they also restructure, right? They also expand, right? They also open more locations, right? And even for them, it becomes fairly challenging to ensure that the healthcare data that they have is clean, complete, and current, right? Many a times we observe data being stale, right? Or there is a lot of latency between what is observed and what is really required. And right, and these kinds of delays actually hamper the efficacy of many of the AI-based applications that are built. Another important, critical challenge is on privacy and security regulations, right? So maintaining patient trust is extremely integral, right? And any efficient healthcare ecosystem, data security is of utmost importance, right? And while we might like to build a lot of applications using patients' data, but to ensure that we respect patients' data, we ensure that all the regulatory compliance and all the security adoption measures have been taken place, is something that has to be taken with a lot of seriousness, right?
Sure.
Especially in the case of healthcare data. And last but not the least, right? Another important aspect that we were also discussing some time back was on patient expectations themselves, right? So just like people expect the best of the service when it comes to retail or e-commerce or banking and hospitality, right? Similarly, I'm sure in future or in just a very very close from now, we'll also experience such high expectations from patients when it will come to healthcare itself, right? So the next generation of people that we'll see, I think they'll start comparing, the kind of service and the personalization that they get when they are in a retail platform versus what they get when they are, let's say, in a healthcare setting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So these are some of 3 or 4 areas which are kind of challenging, and I think it keeps everyone in the healthcare technology space very excited and motivated to take things to the next level.
Sure. Excellent. I think it is very well articulated. Last point, I think, like customer journey maps, we need to have patient journey maps, and at every interaction point, how we design the experience. It's not just service. That's what I was telling now. It's not product lifecycle management, service lifecycle management. It is experience lifecycle management. At every interaction point, how we design the experience, we need to become the experts in designing experience. So I think that's very critical. So, okay, let me conclude this session with Dr. Tau Pritesh. Pritesh, I think Dhruv mentioned so many technological and interoperability challenges when the things getting expanded, or when the cyber security related issues and others, and the data integrity of the data, all those things. But do you see what is the importance of defining the various data management policies, processes? I call it as something like a governance, actually. So what is the data governance strategy you think the organizations must focus, and why they have to focus, so that all the challenges what we have been discussing can be managed effectively and efficiently?
That's $1 million question in AI/ML for healthcare, that at the center of all AI/ML in healthcare, it is data. And unless data are harmonized, standardized, and are available in a form which are interoperable, it's very hard to generalize solutions that get developed in AI/ML to other settings. So a solution may work at one setting, but as soon as we move to another setting, it needs to see a very similar kind of data. And what is now currently being done is there are frameworks that are being put in place. There's existing standards, which we know, for example, the FHIR standards, and there's terminologies and vocabularies like the SNOMED CT. But now even the National Digital Health Mission has basically its own sandbox, which provides some of these frameworks to make data sets interoperable. And the NDHM sandbox has some of these APIs which can be used to create interoperable data sets. In the form of governance, I believe, as I said, the patient is always at the center, or the person or the citizen is always at the center. So having consent frameworks for people so that they can, they will allow, a patient will allow, or a citizen would allow which data to exchange with which hospital. And that consent framework is also a part of the NDHM sandbox. And so I think these are 2 really great leaps that have happened recently, which are enabling more interoperability at the technical level. However, the interoperability at the more semantic and human level are still open challenges, because just having frameworks is not enough. And that's where more research and more solutions and more working groups are being proposed, where interoperability is one of the key questions, and data governance is one of the key questions. And those will include discussions on more inclusive languages, more inclusive vocabularies for the Indian settings, and then sharing of these frameworks and architectures across the national level and then the international level. And once this happens, then essentially AI/ML that gets developed at any of the sites can be readily be deployable, and it will generate value at many other sites, and will, of course, be value for investment.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tau Pritesh, for that wonderful discussion. All right, so now I think the time is up. Thank you so much to Neeraj Lal, Dhruv Rastogi, Ashish Pandey, Atanu Baumik, Dr. Tau Pritesh Sethi. We, I think, discussed all the facets of the healthcare ecosystem and the complex settings in that, and how the data is getting generated from various sources, the velocity, variety, volume, and veracity, and how it is improving in diagnosis, preventive healthcare, patient experience, cost reduction, even I think the equipment monitoring, ICUs monitoring, what not, and so many things. And in addition to that, the day-to-day operational excellence, how it can be improved. And not only that, like Ashish mentioned, this is a very important point to understand that AI/ML might be very exciting, but not many projects are successful, and the initial investments will be very higher. The organizations have to look at maybe 3-year horizon, not just 1 year, and the return on investments have to be calculated, and effective project management practices needs to be implemented to get best out of it. Then data governance and cultural, technological interoperability challenges have to be factored when you implement them. Thank you so much, friends, and this is a wonderful discussion. I hope the audience will enjoy this.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.